Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and we've got a very special show for you tonight. I got my two guests here, Evan and Nate. We're going to be talking about the next 5 films in the Frank Capra collection. And with that, let's get the show started. All right. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good.
Yep, doing well.
Good.
I thought we were still in the silent portion of the Frank Capra.
Yeah, I didn't know who was going to go first. There you go.
Don't you guys know how to stream? No. What'd you guys think of that elevator music? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but StreamYard changed the audio, or I guess the music on that countdown. It did not sound like elevator music before.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty bland. At least your intro music is good, so that's fine.
Can't go wrong with Tchaikovsky.
That's right.
All right. Well, why don't we introduce ourselves? Most of us have been here before, but Evan, why don't we start out with you? Why don't you tell the audience who you are?
I'm Evan. I'm Pop Culture 33. I used to have a YouTube channel, and now I don't. I'm a professional guest.
Retired YouTuber.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm Nate. I was here last time. Been on a couple of podcasts with my buddy Harrison here. You can find me at Geeks and Flix on YouTube. Action Movie Guys is the podcast. So yeah, that's pretty much where I am. Netflix Reviews on Instagram. It's all 3 different names, but I mean it's all me.
Right. All right. Looks like we got some people in the chat here. Got Acres of Movies. Hello and thanks. I love this collection. Have you seen Lost Horizon? No, but that will be coming up in the future here, so stay tuned for that.
Yes.
And we got Scott saying hi. What's up?
Ooh.
Okay. Acres of Movies. Delightful to see everyone, and much respect to 4K Lowdown Dave when I've seen many of you. Yep. Yeah, he was a great guy. I miss him. Okay. And then Acres of Movies. What's your favorite scene of Frank Capra movies you've seen thus far? Tell you what, we'll talk about that as we go along here.
Yep.
But stay tuned for that. All right, guys. So we'll kind of do a lowdown of how the show will go. Kind of like last time, we're all going to go around sharing the number 5 to number 1. You could say worst of the bunch or just worst overall, whatever your heart tells you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but before we get into that, what are your guys' overall thoughts now with this collection? Now that we're about 10 movies in now.
I'll go first. Okay, I will say 10 movies in, and this is not. I mean, I guess it's kind of a spoiler for this show, but I liked the first 5 better. So like as a whole. So I know they were silent, and I never in my imagination would think I would say that, but I think I liked those better a little bit, but I'm definitely seeing some themes. I'm definitely seeing some trends now that we're 10 movies in. So I'm very excited to talk about them.
All right. How about you, Evan?
So I love Frank Capra and just seeing the masterfulness of his camera work. But you could tell later on where he gets to control more of the story. Gets to play out where some of these movies you could tell that he's not in complete control of every aspect that he has later on. So, but I do love a pre-code movie. I don't know why any movies about before that code come in and stuff like that. I just love that. And I don't know if every audience knows the pre-code movies versus code movies and post-code movies and stuff like that. I forgot. Did you guys talk about that last time?
I think we briefly talked about it, but no, go ahead and share that.
So pre-code is movies. Code came out when like what you would call most people say the Catholic Church in history, or people who were more of the conservative view, didn't like what the talkies were dealing with, because talkies came out and they took the opportunity to address lots of the day's issues, and they like interracial relationships. They talked about what the kids were wearing and drugs and all this other stuff. And some people didn't like that. So they decided to come out and say, get the code. And part of that was they started to add certain aspects to get rated in what could be shown in theaters across America. The famous one is if you watch San Francisco about the earthquake, the big earthquake, you have Spencer Tracy in it. All of a sudden shows up and does a prayer, because movies have to have a prayer. It's just out of the place, Spencer Tracy's character. But they had to have a pastor, and then they had to have some form of prayer to God in movies. That's why you see in the middle of like stuff, and then the code goes away. And you get the 1960s and 70s films where they're like, let's shoot everyone. Let's curse.
Yeah, exactly. No.
So, but I just love a pre-code, because you just see, I'm going to talk about it, but just see that some of the today's issues I can't believe today we're talking about this issue. Like, no, they were talking about it in the 1930s. They were dealing with a lot of the stuff that we are dealing with today. So I just love how we get a glimpse of history, that it's just part of the culture.
Yep. Well stated. All right. We've got some more comments here. Scott says, dang it. I said I would be sober for this one. I just remembered. Well, can't win them all.
Next one, Scott. Next one. You got 2 more tries.
Okay. We got another from Acres of Movies. Frank Capra is here now and back to life. You're Kevin Feige of Marvel. What movie or character or MCU do you sign for this new but same Frank Capra? Ooh. I have to think about that.
Yeah. I've noticed this.
Captain America.
Acres of Movies really comes with like these questions that like they require a lot of time to think. They're too intense. I could not think of this quickly, especially trying to, like Evan said, remember all these movies we got to talk about. I'm going to say
Captain America, because he loves. Frank Capra becomes the zeitgeist of what we think of what the American dream is and what the American hope and how we understand American history. So many people, when they reference American past, are usually referencing something Frank Capra pushed and was saying this was the ideal America, and he fought against the powers of be, the government, the bankers, and all that stuff. So Captain America would be the one I would put in because of that reason.
Me too.
I think I agree, especially because during World War II, he did all those war movies too. So I think that would fit him the most of all the characters.
Because he's not picking Iron Man, because Iron Man's too rich.
Right.
Too much like Howard Hawks.
True.
Yeah.
Or Howard Hughes, excuse me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are you guys ready for this? We want to get into our ratings now?
Yes.
All right. Well, who wants to go first with their number 5?
I want to go first.
All right, Nate, go for it.
This is okay. So this is last time. I won't lie. Last time was a little tougher for me to rank. The only one that was hard was 1 and 2. Like, which did I like better? The other ones fell kind of in line. If this is not, it's definitely the worst movie of these 5. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think this is the worst movie in this box. And that is going to be Rain or Shine. Listen, are we giving our score at the end too, like last time?
Yes. Okay. So
you'll give a score out of 5 as well.
I hated this movie. I'm not gonna lie. I will say I chuckled one time at the scene where he was pulling the spaghetti out of the bowl, and it was like a ton of spaghetti in that little bowl. That made me giggle. Other than that, this Joe Cook character is so annoying. He's like fast talking. He's not that likable, honestly. He's like a swindler, and I'm like, okay, this is our main character. He's like tricking the guy into like paying his own bill and all this stuff. And comedy is one of those things where if it's not like Abbott and Costello from like way old times, I don't usually find it that funny. Comedy kind of goes with the times more than a lot of other things. And for me, I didn't really find much of this funny. Like, it was cool when he's doing his little circus tricks, but like, there's barely a plot. It's very thin, and I was not into it. I gave it a 1 out of a 5.
Wow.
I was not into it at all. And it, like, I respect it for Capra. It's the most different of all these first 10 movies. Like, it's not like any of the other ones, whereas the other ones all have some similar parts. This is like totally different, but it was just a big miss for me. I did not like it. I didn't think it was funny, and I hated that lead character, and I thought he was annoying. So 1 out of 5, I was shocked.
You should watch the international version because that's a silent film.
I would have liked it better.
There's no talking in that. It's literally because.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to hear him talk. That would have been. I probably would have liked the international, and it was shorter by 20 minutes. It's only 88 minutes, and it felt like an eternity because I didn't like it. I was like, oh, this needs to end already. But so yeah, that was the biggest miss. I don't know if there's a worse one in there, but I hope not. For me, worse for me.
What'd you think of all the animal costumes during the circus?
Oh my gosh, like the gorilla that comes out. Who set you free? Mike, who set you free? Mike. Okay, that joke goes on for like 3 minutes, and then the gorilla's like, George, or whatever he says, and they're laughing, and I'm like, okay, cool. That was something. I did like when he fed the lions chicken. That was cool, like seeing him like feed the animals with the pole. But like, I got all my joy out of like just kind of seeing circus culture at the time. Semi-interesting, I guess. But you watch something like The Greatest Show, the success will be the middle. Like, that's so much, and that's kind of boring, but it's leagues better as far as showing like circus. Whereas this one is, and the ending is kind of weird, and yeah, I was not into it.
Okay. Well, before we get into Evan, you'll be the next one. Let's read some comments here. Dirigible was interesting. Stay tuned to hear about that. Have you guys gone into the longer movies, and how did you decide what order to watch them in? Ooh. We're just watching the order that they're in the box, which I'm pretty sure is theatrical.
I think it's release order.
Release order.
Yeah, they're the order that they came out.
And you have to tell me now because I messed up my box. Because my box, when I was trying to get out one movie, all came falling out. So I just put it back in, and so I have no idea what my order is.
I got them back in order. Or you can look at the back of the box too. It has them.
Okay. That's too much logic, Nate. Come on. That's too much logic. Come on.
Yeah, these were a little longer. These were longer than the first batch.
Well, these were feature length.
Yeah.
You had these, you could see that Hollywood's trying to figure out how long can someone sit in the theater without a intermission.
Mm-hmm. So one of these was an hour 15. Oh no, I mean 115, an hour 55. That was the longest one so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Evan, let's get into your number 5.
So I had it the same issue here. So I would say my top 2 were the hardest ones to pick. And so my bottom 3 are going to be like, this one's a little bit better than the other one for different aspect ratios, if that makes sense, for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So my least favorite out of this one was, let's see if I do this right, Flight.
Wow.
I know. Here's the reason why. It comes up with a very strong premise, but about 15 to 20 minutes in, I feel like it just says, you know what, I'm going to forget what we started with. And I'm just going to show you flying planes. I'm just going to show you these cool things. Like, it's maybe the Avatar, like saying, look what we could do with movies. Because I feel like the plot of the story and who we're like, and I was like, I'm just bored. Like, I have no purpose for this. I don't think I would rewatch this. It just wasn't, I don't know how to describe it. I just wasn't entertained. Like, I thought it was the weakest in the sense of, I'm not going to disagree when I talk about another movie when we get to Ranger Jack. It's not much better than this in that sense. So I'm going to, I'll go back to it, but I'll list why I rated higher. But I just like going, like, by the end of the movie, like, I really don't care. Like, what do you mean you're just going to leave him and go with your friend? And then, oh, he's blind, and they're like, no, wrong movie. I did
that's
it.
Dirigible.
I did that wrong. Just they're the same actors.
It is. It's the same two guys, and
from
they were also in the
Submarine.
other movies too.
Submarine.
yeah.
They're in all three together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I'll take that back. I was just bored with this, and I don't remember it. And as you could tell, I was naming another movie as I was describing this movie. That's how bored I was with that.
That's fair.
That's how
actually.
forgettable it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair because without, again, and like you said, not to go forward too much, but I feel like Frank Capra made the same movie 3 times. I watched the same movie 3 times in these first. So I'm not surprised you. I have to really think to not mix them up like that.
Yeah.
Too. So I feel you.
Yep. All right. Before we move on, we got another comment here. I saw Flight and Dirigible back to back. Well, that's just got to be very confusing. Why you do
It's like one long movie.
Yeah. What score did you give it?
Oh, I'll give that a 1.
Give it a 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did not like you.
And this is coming off of you're going from silent films and you're going to talkies. You can't be more boring because you have the opportunity to talk. Like you could tell a better story, but I know they're trying to figure it out. But I've seen a lot of other movies at this time that did a much better with this. So you could tell that, to me, it's like DC trying to catch up with Marvel. You could see Columbia's trying to tack up with other studios with talkies. Let's do this. Let's do that. And we're going to do that with the other, because that's going to be compared to Wings and other movies that are doing it. Like you could tell that there's not much creativity at the time. But Frank Capra as a director, like what he does with the camera is still good. Like the movie itself, like I could see someone who's a film guy goes and watch and sees how the planes are shot, because that definitely does look better in some of the other movies, but the story's just not there to carry the movie.
Yeah. No, agreed. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and share my number 5, and that is Flight. Also,
wow.
I also did not like Flight. Now, like Nate was saying earlier, I definitely think this bunch was pretty rough. And honestly, I had a hard time organizing these because I did a little little bullet points and whatnot. Some of them were only off by like 2 or 3 points. Like it was basically coming down to, okay, I like the camera work a little bit more here. I like the acting a little bit more. Like this was not an easy task, and not because they were good movies. But anyways, with Flight, I agree with a lot of what Evan said. And the notes I have here, it's a Wings knockoff. If you ever seen the movie Wings, it's a lot better than this movie, in my opinion. I like the little model planes. It's about it.
You like when it crashes and the lizard is like the lizard. There's like the part where the plane crashes in the water. A lizard walks across. It looks like a dinosaur because they use the miniature. It cracked me up. I was laughing so hard.
I
it's
hate
Land Before Time or whatever. Like
yeah, exactly. They're in the land of the lost.
Yeah.
But I hated the plot of this movie. The acting is just pretty meh. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of, I think his name's Ralph Graves.
He's like the good-looking one, the younger one.
Yeah, I prefer Jack Holt personally of the two.
He's the mustache guy.
He's the mustache guy.
Yeah, I like him more.
The other guy, you could tell that they all have that jawline. That's coming from the silent films where they could do the makeup and they see that over dramatic, but you just see all of a sudden these very distinct jaw lines in these movies. You're like going, it's off-putting when they're like, because it doesn't look natural.
Right. And then too, him wearing that hat or whatever that the pilots wear. Then when he takes it off, it's like, oh, his hair looks terrible. Like, I don't know. It's just not what I was imagining at all.
And who joins? I'm hoping I'm getting this movie right now. Who joins the Marine from talking to a guy in the bathroom? I'm gonna go and prove you. Right? That's this one.
That's this movie.
Yeah. Who does that? I had a good conversation with you in that potty, so I'm gonna join the Marines.
Yeah. No, it's not a good movie. If you want to see a movie kind of like this, stick to Wings. I personally think that's the better one. And even that movie's not super great. But if you want a biplane movie, it's better.
Watch Submarine.
Or watch Submarine. Exactly.
But underwater.
Yep. So, anyways, that's my number
That's
5.
interesting. Okay. But I'm not mad at your guys' picks. But I can't believe you guys have Rain or Shine over anything.
When it comes to my reasoning why, I think you'll understand why.
Okay.
It's not my number.
I can't wait.
I don't think you'll understand mine.
Was it when he fed the lion the chicken? I don't know. Maybe.
All right.
What was your score for that one?
Oh, yes. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. So not bad. Not that bad.
We're here giving ones.
We're
He's going, there's 3. I mean, just know that like we still have 1 through 5 to play with. Nate Harrison just now has 3 through 5. I mean, he's taking out the whole 2 numbers now.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're kind of high score.
So, I mean, it was pretty hard to decide because they're all so close, in my opinion, this rating.
The next one's going to get a 3.2.
Pretty much. Pretty much. All right.
That's good.
Okay, so I think Nate,
My
you're
turn.
number 4.
Well, you know what? This is why I was excited to have Evan here because it was already fun just me and Harrison, the list being different. But now these things, I just feel like they're going to go all over the place, and I love it. My number 4 is the 3rd time I've seen the same exact movie, and that's going to be Dirigible. I thought this was worse than Flight. It is way more boring. This is I would say even more like Submarine than Flight, because this is a movie where Jack Holt, and I'm opposite of you, Harrison. I actually like Ralph Graves better than Jack Holt.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I read about him. And Jack Holt, like he was actually in the military. That's why he plays a military guy in every single one of these movies. And Ralph Graves, and he feels like it, so it fits. But Ralph Graves feels more like an actor to me. Like he seems more like that kind of old school actor, and I like him. I liked him in the Sandwich movie, and I like him in I like him in another one of these. So I like him. But this movie is basically Submarine without. I mean, there is kind of a love triangle. They all have a love triangle, but this one doesn't involve like a guy's wife being a really loosey goosey and cheating on him and all that. But it does still involve a plane that crashes and they're stranded for like 40 minutes. And then Jack Holt got to go save them. And he's got to go to Antarctica to get them. And I'm like, this is the same thing, except in Submarine, they were underwater. And in Flight, which I watched before this, they were crashed in the jungle wherever they were. So it's like, I think that
South America, yeah.
Yeah, I think that affected me a lot is the fact that this was the 3rd time that I'd already seen the same kind of story play out. This does have Fay Wray. She's great. I actually really like her in this movie. I only ever saw her from King Kong, and I like her in that, but I thought she was really good in this. And this is nowhere near to me as bad as Rain or Shine, but I still didn't really love it. And I was kind of bored. I gave this one a 2 out of 5. So
2 out of 5. All right.
Yeah. And also for like a 4K, it doesn't look amazing. I don't know if this was the right pick to like kind of do in 4K. Like out of these movies, there's another one I would have preferred, but it was, and this is Giant Epic of the Air, but it's not really that exciting. Like you see blimps flying slowly. The plane tricks are cool. I like that. I like when, Ralph Graves' characters doing all them plane tricks. I'm like, yeah. I saw this 2 movies ago when I watched Flight. I saw plane tricks. So, I don't know.
Okay. Well, fair enough. All right.
Dirigible.
Evan. Dirigible. What's your number 4, Evan?
Yeah.
So the reason like Nate hated the main guy, the talker
Joe
guy,
Cook.
Joe
Cook.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've studied about him. I've read him. I've not been able to see this movie before because this was a hard movie to find before this set. Like it's not been like the easiest thing to see unless you saw it on TC, Turner Classic Movie Channel back in the day when it aired live. You're not buying this. The DVD was hard to get, if I remember correctly. So I never saw it. But this is the guy who inspired Abbott Costello, Dick Van Dyke, a whole bunch of that comedy. This guy was doing it, and he didn't make many movies. So he actually said, I'm not going to do this. My comedy's not coming off as clear on movies. I'm going to do it. And then other people perfected that comedy to be on talkies. So I understand the importance of Joe Cook in film history, if that makes sense. It's hard. I did not hate it. I like the comedy in it because I find it funny, but it's not good. And I always hate watching old movies with circus animals because I know the abuse that those animals are going through to get what they're supposed to do. So it's always hard to watch these for that. But there's really no point to this movie besides to show off Joe Cook's talent. I truly think that the studio says, here's Joe Cook. He needs to do some comedy, write a story around that. And we have animals. We would like to do some animal stuff. And I think that's how this movie got made. Because there's no point. At this point, go watch The Greatest Showman. Because you get almost the same story, especially with the ending, with it burning down and them all standing around going, oh, what are we going to do? But yeah, I give it a 1.5. So it's not much higher when I'm saying it's only getting that 0.5 because I just know Abbott Costello and Dick Van Dyke and a lot of these other comedians that I've mentioned that they got inspiration from him. That's it.
Fair. Okay. They definitely did it better than him. I mean, if he inspired them, they took it to the next level because
they perfected it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an acquired taste, I would say, if going back to old. I mean, I think that's cool that it's kind of one of those hard to find, lost movies, but they should put it back. I don't
put it back in the vault.
Lock it back up.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, now it's time for my number 4.
Oh.
I swear I wasn't trying to do it in order of the releases, but for me, my number 4 is Ladies of Leisure.
Wow.
And here's why. But I'll talk about the positives first. I really like Barbara Stanwyck's character in this movie. You could see why I'm pretty sure this is the one that made her a star. But I wasn't a fan of the plot, and I was just really bored with it, if I'm going to be honest. When she falls in love with a guy and then they're just sitting and talking, it just got really boring to me. It wasn't as spunky and exciting anymore with him doing the painting and stuff. Once he stopped doing all of that, I was like, when is this going to end?
Just finish, please. Finish the painting.
But like I said, the one reason to watch it is because of Barbara Stanwyck. Everything else doesn't matter. So.
Wow.
But so overall, though, I gave it a 3.4 out of 5.
Pretty good.
Because of Barbara Stanwyck.
Are they prostitutes? They're prostitutes, right?
They are. No. Yes. They don't. Well,
they are not. They are not prostitutes. So, okay, I was going to talk about this is part of the code. So back in the day, women can't hold jobs. Right? Some women can't go and get a job. So they literally have to go on dates. So they are prostitutes, but they're not prostitutes because this was the cultural norm. So that's why that scene when she's ordering all that food with that guy, because that's the only chance they get to eat is going on dates.
They refer to the guy as Johns. So that's and I know that's a prostitution term. I mean, I'm assuming, like you were saying with the code stuff, they could not say they're prostitutes. They could not show.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what's implied.
Just shy of prostitution.
So you have prostitutes. So at this time, you have prostitutes that literally are selling themselves just for sex for money.
Yeah.
Then you have this other where the societies were pushing women into go on dates with men, not always having sex with them, dates. That's the key point. Women did not have to that guy did not that took that girl out on a date. Was not guaranteed to have sex with her at the end of that date. So that's why I wouldn't call them prostitutes, because the sex is not the date in the women companionship was the exchange, not the sex part.
But if they did sleep together, I mean, they were still paying for it. I feel like they're prostitutes. It's like that thing of like in real life, even now, where prostitutes be like, he just wanted to talk about his feelings. They didn't have sex. They're still a prostitute. Still paid you for a service. And I do like the term "ladies of leisure" a little bit better than
it's a direct distinction, especially at this time, because one was against the law and one was not.
Right,
so
right.
These ladies would, if they would never get in jail for what they were doing, if that makes sense. The prostitutes will get in jail for what they're doing. So there was that term "lady of leisure" was there for that purpose. And John's are that terminology that was actually used for "lady of leisures" and then moved into prostitution when and that changes after World War II when women really moved into the workforce. So
I still think they're prostitutes. They're really treated like the dirt, like scum dirt. I mean, they it applies. I will say this: even if they're not, if you in your mind think they are, the movie still functions the same way. You know what I mean? Like it's still very Pretty Woman-esque in that.
I like to make the distinction because what the movie is actually trying to tell you. It's making.
But again, I feel like they were. Okay, I'll say this.
But the movie wasn't made for you, right? The movie came out in 1920, and it's talking about the cultural norms of that time.
Right, but
not
also
for
there's things you cannot do that you could not say. So this is an easy way to skirt. These filmmakers knew what they were doing too. They knew that scene when she calls the guy on the phone at the end. Oh, we do spoilers here, right?
Oh yeah. The movie's 95 years old.
When she's going on the cruise with the guy on the end, even just the language. I want to get into some trouble. These are not things that you're saying if you're going to like just hang out and like get flowers and eat steak.
No,
this is, it is implied, but you can't just outright say it because of the times. And just the way they're viewed, I just feel like even still, they were prostitutes. Like I don't.
Well, yeah,
I don't.
We're using our terminology today. That if we were to watch it, we could maybe make that argument. But back then, that there was a very distinct role for women that was different between those two. You didn't catch it, and so the movie is commentary on the lady of leisure, not the prostitutes of the day, because that's a whole different film. If that makes sense. Those are other films that were made. This was talking about those in-between women that were like, they're not rich, but are they in that in-between what our society is forcing them to do?
She was down to clown at the end, I'll tell you that, on that boat.
And I'm kind of spoiling where I think of this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yep.
But that's the whole point. There was commentary of saying how the society is forcing these women into certain actions that are then looked down upon. And so that's kind of where the movie was talking about multiple times. And you can see that from the father and the mother saying, hey, we look down to you, but then the woman is forced to do these things. So it's like going, hey, why do you do these? well, because you're forcing me to, because you won't give up your 1% thing and all this other stuff. It'd be the 99, 94. What is that called back then? It wasn't the 1%, but it was a different terminology. But just saying, hey, you rich people get to stay rich, the poor people stay poor, and then us middle people, the middle class is not formed yet. And so where do we belong? And so, and they're being looked down as the low class, but they're not in the low class, but they can't move up to the high class. So I think that's the whole purpose of the movie. So that's why I'm fighting for that distinction, because that makes the movie.
She also stole his wallet. She's kind of low class. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. Like she stole his, she stole his wallet. Yeah. This is not and I agree with you as far as the existence, but like the way the movie plays out, she's low class. She's kind of low class. She's gorgeous, but she is, and she behaves until she meets someone who kind of changes that perspective. And Harrison didn't like it.
It's very zippy.
Yeah,
zippy.
Peppy.
Very gay.
Jazzy.
It says gay. Yeah. Not modern gay, old time gay.
Yeah, the happy gay.
Well, yeah.
Yes. All right. That was a fun discussion. and we're going to get to that. I haven't picked that movie yet. Evan hasn't picked it yet, so I'm excited.
We'll see.
Okay,
Number 3.
Number 3. You guys already picked this movie.
Right.
I haven't picked it yet, but now I am.
You guys already picked this movie, and I'm going to go with Flight. Is my number 3. Now, similar to you, Harrison and Evan, like these are they're close in score. Like I don't think they're much different. This had the advantage of me seeing it before Dirigible, and therefore I liked it better. This one I did like the story. It's very goofy. Like the whole thing with him being a football player and then running in the wrong direction. And then
what was up with that?
Yeah, and then they lose the game 2-0, which is a weird football score. And then he goes in the bathroom. He's so sad. The guy gives him a little speech. He joins the military. He's like, remember me? And then they're like best buds. And, and then it goes from there. It does have a love triangle. This one's similar to Submarine in that regard, except this one's more wholesome. There's no cheating wife. You know what I mean? It's just a girl. It's a misunderstanding. Jack Holt likes her. She doesn't like him the same way. She likes the other character. But he's a good guy in this. See, I like Ralph Graves' character. He was willing. He was like, I'll propose to her for you. He gave her up. And I respect that. So I actually liked the kind of love triangle in this one. I thought it was entertaining in that regard. But the second half, everything you guys said, I agree with. The one advantage, this has some cool war scenes. Some stuff gets blown up. It's very well shot. I like the miniature planes. I like the regular size planes too. You get a lot of, aerial tricks. You get a lot of machine gun shooting. Like this one's more thrilling than Dirigible. And so as an action movie podcast host, it speaks to my heart a little bit more than the other ones. So I give it a 2.5 out of a 5. Yeah. Okay. Not great, but right in the middle for me. Like it was okay. This one's the longest one, right? This was the one that was like almost 2 hours.
I think so.
Yeah. 115 minutes, I believe. I have the case here, but I'll let you look
115. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it felt it. I think they could have trimmed a good 15 minutes off the end, honestly. But I liked it more than you guys, but I don't think it's amazing. So 2.5. That's my number 3.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's see. No comments there. So, Evan, you're number 3. Dirigible.
It's only higher than Flight because it has blimps, and I like blimps.
Blimps are cool.
So that is literally why it got a higher score. I mean, this story is also pathetic. Okay. So there you go. And as you can see, I confused this one with Flight. So really, they're interchangeable. But this one has blimps. The other one does not. That's how you tell them apart. Thank you very much. There's your little lesson. I have nothing more to say. Nate summed this up perfectly, but he forgot the best part of the movie is it has blimps. So there you go.
There you go.
There's some slow moving blimps. They did look cool though. They look kind of cool.
Especially when it crashed and exploded.
Yeah. What was the so I got a question because I know Harrison. I'll save it for when Harrison does it. Actually, okay. I'll save it because you haven't done it yet. I'll save it before you go.
Okay.
But I feel you, Evan. It is.
I mean, and my rating for that is once again a 1.5. This is how small, how bored I was with these. And the best part of these movies was the research I did behind them because I'm a historian geek and film historian. That's been the most enjoyable part of the movie, not the movies themselves.
Wow.
Dang. Fair enough.
Dang.
Okay.
All right, give it to us, Harrison.
So you got my number 3. So it's a film we've already talked about. That's Rain or Shine.
All right. Yep. If we got any higher, I was gonna leave.
Nate's gonna leave the show.
He was gonna ride out on the elephant too. He was gonna get on that elephant and ride off.
Jump the fat lady back in to the cart.
This one I gave a 3.5 out of 5. It's just a little bit better, but not much better than Ladies of Leisure for me. I don't know about you guys. I actually kind of like Joe Cook. I thought he was funny. I really like that vaudevillian style comedy, but I definitely think the plot itself is just non-existent. It's not good. I just like the gags that happen throughout. So it was more of like a, would you call like a demo reel of Joe Cook's gags. And I had a fun time with it. Some of the animal costumes are very, very cheesy. A little ridiculous. Let's see. Camera work wise, it was fine. Now, I just like the gags. I think that's the only reason why I gave it a 4. I just find that style of comedy to be very interesting and very funny to me. So, yep, that's why it's my number 3.
It's one of those things where I feel like I respect it more than I like it. Like, I respect it, and I love what it. I love that it exists so that people can build on it and make it better. But like going back and watching, it's like, dang, like these guys. Oh, he's pouring tea into a cup and it never fills.
Yeah,
wow. And it goes for like 2 minutes. I'm like, I'm like, okay.
I thought that
was probably hilarious. But...
I was laughing.
if you're a fan,
I'm easily
of comedy,
amused.
Like actually a fan of like comedy in itself, not just I like this comedian, but or a film historian. This movie could be up there and it's important. But if you're just a person who likes watching movies and you're like, oh, give me an old movie to watch, stay away from this.
No,
don't come near it. Right? These are only for like a certain group of people that will appreciate for what it is, but understand it's terrible.
No, I definitely agree that it's not for everybody. I think most people would be bored and not laugh at the jokes and all of that. I don't think it holds up at all in that aspect. Like I don't even know if I want to rewatch it anytime soon either. Probably give it a couple of years.
International cut. I will say this much: in doing this, like this box set and watching these Capra films, I have discovered 10 in what I really like. That movie has nothing. Like I'm all story and character. And I don't think that movie has good either. Like there's no plot and there's no characters to really latch onto and like. Joe Cook's performance is fun and interesting, but is his character not really? He's kind of a douchebag. And you know what I mean? Like,
so I think the only one that actually has a character arc is the guy who wants the money. Everyone else is even who the daughter who we're supposed to kind of root behind that everything. Right. We don't care about her. She's barely in the movie.
She's hardly in it. No, I agree.
And she just kind of gets tossed aside as it goes along.
And we really don't. And the circus is there just to show off that they could film a circus. It has no plot device except for that it's traveling and this guy needs a that's the plot. It's like watching. Take an Abbott and Costello, the Who's on First, and decide to draw that out for an hour and 30 minutes. In the sense of here's just a simple joke that we do in 15 minutes, and then let's just try to build off on it. And that's what I think Joe Cook had this one little joke, and they said, can we build a movie around that? That's with him taking the payment, and that's pretty funny in itself, but inside the movie, it doesn't play off because you're like, why is he doing this? Yeah. But if I was watching that on stage and doing a little in between little clips like a Mighty Python TV show, we probably would have laughed a lot more because we're not invested into this. I think this was an hour and 15, hour and 20,
hour 28.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if they would have taken those little jokes and just had them by themselves, I think we would have enjoyed them for as they are. But in this story, it doesn't.
Yeah, as a sketch, some of them work. Yeah, some of them work. Like the dinner scene as a sketch. Like I said, kind of okay. I like the spaghetti part. I actually laughed. The tea bit, the sugar cubes, where it's pour some sugar. But then it goes. You're right, Evan. Abbott, Who's on First works because of the length.
Yes,
it's so funny.
It's only 10 minutes. Yeah,
right, and it's just a joke that just builds and builds and builds, and then it ends. It's like that, but then it doesn't end, and then it has to go to a next part, and it's but there was no real plot involved in that scene other than that guy who goes
that guy, yeah.
When we were watching him pay the bill, that made sense of him trying to swindle out of the bill.
Yeah,
the spaghetti scene is funny,
yeah,
but it has no purpose. All of a sudden, he's doing spaghetti. I'm like, what am I watching this for? How did he get it set up? Where did it get under the table? How is he? I ended up with more questions because I'm watching a story and not a sketch, if that makes sense.
Yep.
If I'm watching a sketch, I'm not asking those questions.
Correct.
And so that's where Rain and Shine fails for me.
Yep.
Yep.
Agreed.
What did you guys think of when it was him and I think one other person doing the full circus by themselves? I thought that was pretty cool.
Like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, him doing his own stunts.
I mean, it was cool. Like he goes on the little wire and he's spinning the things. Like as a physical performance, I thought it was very cool. That part, and there was one other thing. The ball, the thing with the ball where he's going.
Yeah.
Up and but again, cool. I agree. I think that it was neat, but within the context of a movie, I'm like, this is too long. But it's just a perform. This is me watching this guy do stuff, and like I said, like something like The Greatest Show. With Charlton Heston, while more stretched out, you get a lot of that. You get like trapeze, and it's way better shot. I mean, it's also like 20 years later, but still.
I forgot.
But they got better character stories for them.
Yes.
Did you know that this movie was going to be longer? Because it's a musical. It's a musical.
Oh, so it was adapted, right? Yeah.
It's a play. It's a play on Broadway. It was a musical, but musicals failed, so literally they cut out all the songs.
Thank God.
So this movie could have been longer, and probably that's what we're missing. And then in honor of David, who loved musicals,
yes,
it would have been his movie.
He would have absolutely loved it.
If this was a musical, I would have, and I don't like to do it, I would have gave it a 0. And it's not even because I hate musicals. I like musicals. But if it was any longer, I would have been like, no.
I wonder what happened to the film, because they actually filmed it and then before the release cut it out.
They burned it.
So
it doesn't exist.
They probably did.
Yeah. If they have that other cut, if they have that other cut, they probably just got rid of the scraps.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Good pick, Harrison. Thank goodness. Thank goodness you finally got it.
What's nice is that we can't really blame each other for picking these bad movies. Like, they're just in the box.
It's just in it.
It's not like Rich picking his movies and like, why did you make me watch this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is
a Bigfoot movie.
And these are much more enriching than some of those bad movies.
Enriching, yes.
I would rather watch an old bad movie there's interesting things in it, like Rain or Shine, like that Joe Cook guy. I'm glad I saw it because now I know I don't like Joe Cook. So if anything, it helped me gain something.
But maybe when this movie came out, you're a kid in the middle of Arkansas that's never seen vaudeville that much, and you go in and watch this movie, you might have been blown away. Probably. We are also been exposed to all these other things and stuff that watching this, but maybe a kid and inspired. Well, supposedly Joe Cook inspired him, but I don't know if it was this movie or just his vaudeville act, because he was supposedly at this time one of the most really famous at the time. Like he could go to any state and people knew who he was.
I bet I would like him if I was a kid back then. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have had no other comparison.
Yeah.
So I would have been like, this is good. All right, we go to number 2.
Number 2. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. See, this is the one I'm still, even to the last second. So I have not picked either of the Barbara Stanwyck movies. Obviously, they are my 2 favorite. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go with, I won't say that part, but I'm going to go with Ladies of Leisure as my number 2. It's very much similar to the Sandwich movie. A lot similar to the Sandwich movie. What is that called? So This Is Love? No, She Got That Certain Thing. That certain thing,
yeah.
It's similar in that it involves a woman who is lower class than a man who is rich or an heir to rich people, a different part of society. They fall in love. This does play out differently, but kind of the bones are, similar. And Ralph Graves is in both of them.
Yes.
And I first of all, she's great. I've only ever seen her in Double Indemnity before these 2 movies.
Oh wow. She's got a great filmography, man.
Oh, she's fantastic. These movies made me kind of want to seek out others because I think she's very good. Very, very good. Again, I like Ralph Graves. I get what you're saying, Harrison, about the painting thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? It led to a lot. I really like the dialogue in this movie. There's a lot of really cute dialogue that comes out of some of that stuff. Even because it's like essentially a rom-com of the time, a little more serious, but it's a rom-com. And if you're gonna do that, give me some cute dialogue. I love the part where they're they're talking soft, and then she's asking him like, how long it's gonna take. So I don't care if it takes 60 years, because she just likes him so much. And I thought that was very cute. I love the scene with her and the mom. I thought that was fantastic. Both the acting and the dialogue in that scene. The only thing I didn't love is the ending. It's way too abrupt. Like,
yeah,
she jumps off that boat. They save her. He shows up at the hospital, and I guess we just assume that they get married and stay together forever. Like,
right.
I would have liked maybe give me 5 more minutes, because these movies get a lot done in shorter time. So give me 5 minutes. Give me a scene where she gets out. Maybe she meet, like the parents are finally like, you know what, it is. Even like the sandwich movie where the dad is like, she's a real winner. She, sold me this bag of nuts or whatever it was. Bolts, whatever it was. I like
bolts. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked that. But other than that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was cute. I liked the friend. I thought she was funny too. So yeah, this one I gave a 3.5. Which is funny because your lowest ones are like 3.5. For me, that was like the high end of these movies. But I liked it. I did like it. I thought it was good, and I thought she was fantastic in it. So, yeah, that's my number 2.
Okay. All right, Evan, you're number 2.
I went with Miracle Woman. I am going to jump. I'm going to tell you my score. This is actually 4 for me. I enjoyed this. I really loved the opening scene. Once again, Barbara kills that with calling out the church and doing that. Yeah. This is the start of where you could start to see, well, I would actually say, my number 1 now, but Lady of Leisure is earlier than this, but you start to see where Frank Capra, the voice on America culture, starts to really come out, where the director is working with the writer and stuff like that. And you really see this with this movie. The only reason I put this down is because I think the middle part is just too long. Like, there's a lot of just things that are happening that are just happening. Like they say, I felt like, when you're watching a TV show that, especially back in the day, you have 24 episodes. It's like 8 through like 12 or 14, they're just like, here's some storyline that we had to do, right?
Yeah,
and I felt there's a bit of that in that middle with the relationship of like who's doing what and stuff like that. But the beginning and end, I think, are just fantastic in the sense of how it does that. But so this is my number 2. I gave it a 4. Nice. So I went from like the low ones, jumped up to a 4. But I actually think that 4 is
1.5.
Yeah, Barbara is a shining star throughout. She changes. She does. She's. We often forget about the impact of women in film history, and they are very powerful. And Barbara is a testament to that. And you could see that in these early 2 films about how powerful they are in changing film history.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm going to continue this conversation because my number 2 is also The Miracle Woman.
Wow.
And
that means I know you're number 1, and I'm...
Yep.
Heck. What's nice, Nate, is he talks last about number 1. We don't have to be here for that.
Right. You could just leave at that point. Yes. But I agree with a lot of what you said there, Evan. And I especially think this movie reminded me a lot of Capra's later films, like Meet John Doe and State of the Union, and those later films he did. This feels the most Capra of all of the movies so far. But I do agree. I think the middle section, especially when we spend a lot of time with the fake people who are sick and all of that. I don't know. I think
swindlers.
I think we spend a little too much time with that. I would have much preferred. I don't know if I was a huge fan of the ventriloquist dummy either. That was a little weird, but I get it. He's kind of shy, the blind guy. But Anyways, Barbara Stanwyck is fantastic in this movie. I really liked that beginning monologue she has, chastising everybody and whatnot, and proving them to be hypocrites and whatnot. I really liked that. And let's see what else. I just love this back picture here, like when she's inside the lion's cage with him. I thought that was a pretty awesome scene. And I don't know, like what I love about Capra films, especially his later ones, they're still applicable today, right? Like even that quote at the beginning, him talking about, be wary of, essentially televangelists, not to call anyone out, but it's still applicable today. And I think that's really cool and what makes them great because they're timeless like that. So, but it's my number 2.
What was your score?
Oh, yes. 3.6 out of 5.
Climbing the charts.
Yep.
Climbing the charts. Well, we'll just keep it going. We'll keep it going because I only have one movie left as well. And it's this ended up being my number 1.
Just now, because you were
just now. Yeah, I was like, it's a coin flip. But you know what it is? It's something you just said, Harrison, and Evan. I agree with pretty much everything you guys have already said. But it is so applicable. You could remake this now and not change too much and get the same result, and it could be just as good. And I do, I'm not a remake. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, okay, if you took this movie and you set it now, does it work? And some of these don't. They don't work at all. This one very much works. Absolutely 1,000,000%. I think that kind of elevated it for me above Ladies of Leisure. It's a little more serious. It still has, all of his movies have comedy. Like there's all these sort of slapsticky things that happen. And I do like that. None of them are over, like they're not all deadly serious. The opening of this movie is amazing. I talked about the dialogue in Ladies of Leisure, stronger here even, especially there. I like the stuff with her and the blind guy in the apartment. Like I like the little dates. Again, it feels, I like a good romance as long as it's interesting and the characters are good. And I liked both characters. He was suicidal, heard her voice, decided not to jump, did all this stuff. He had that connection with her even before they met, and then they meet, and then the ventriloquist dummy was cute. He's the Joe Cook of this movie. They're like, hey, this guy has a talent. He could do ventriloquism. Let's show it. And so he had the little puppet. And I like the part where he's trying to get her out of it at the end, where he's trying to memorize the Office and all that kind of stuff. The only weakness for me, I don't love the ending of this movie. And these movies always end very abrupt. So sometimes I like it. Like I feel like they wrap it with a bow and it's done. And sometimes like it leaves me wanting an extra couple of minutes. Same thing here. She joins the Salvation Army. Nothing bad happens to the other guy who's a freaking swimmer.
Yeah.
It's like he just becomes a boxing promoter. Okay, cool. She ends up with the guy at least, so that's cool. He might have punched his vision back into his head, so that's kind of cool. Like
that's what I wondered. Like
yeah. Well, the way it showed, he hits his head. I'm like, oh, because he could see before. So I'm like, maybe he punched his vision back in. And then the doctors are like, they said maybe, but whatever. So it does have a happy ending. And I do like that character had an arc with her faith where had it lost it because of all this and kind of found it again. You know what I mean? And I like that. So this one, I'm going to give a 4. I changed my score. I had a 3.5. I think it's worth a 4 for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. And well shot. I like the stuff in the, like you mentioned, the lion cage, that tabernacle thing. Very grand. It reminded me of King Kong. I was like, oh, you didn't bring King Kong out on the stage, but they didn't have lions and stuff like that. But I thought it was very good.
All right. Fair enough. All right, Evan, what's your number 1?
Well, there's no surprise.
Ladies of Leisure.
I love this movie. I think for me, this movie is very important. And as your argument, I actually think this movie could be remade today. I think we're stuck on some of the terminologies because of how language has developed and stuff. But you change key words and like related. This story could be told about classism, about one percenters. What does that mean? What kind of society we live in? How do we look at that and stuff like that? But I love this film. One, the opening shot. I just love how creative Frank Capra was and the people he worked with, because he wants to go up the building, but you can't do that shot. There's no cranes. There's no camera cranes to do that. So you get little puppets that they get the limit. I loved it. I was like,
it was awesome.
Like he's working inside of his limitations, and he's taken from other people, because I don't think that's the first time that shot's been done. But what he does is he goes, how do we perfect that? How do I get you and take your talent and do that in this movie? I thought the story, I loved them talking about the painting scene. I thought of Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman's pretty boring. That's what I thought of there. I mean, how many times can we see her shopping, sitting in a bathtub, like that? We're just, that's the homage of that. And I love the abrupt ending. I do love that, because it's asking a question. The movie itself is asking a question of how we feel about this relationship, and we're at the end. We're not given answers. It's asking a question of society, and that's a pre-code thing where they're actually trying to get you, the audience, to think. During code, they're like, don't think we're just going to tell you everything. That's what the code kind of controls. It's like trying to tell you, this is how you should think about these actions. This is bad. This was good. This doesn't tell you that. We don't tell if he's given up his money, or did the parents change their mind, or any of that stuff. And this really has one of my favorite jokes, and it's only because I'm a nerd and I had to use this. When her friend's on the date with the other guy and she's ordering all that, he goes, I only have 2 books, the phone book and the Bradstreet. And he goes, oh, well, am I? You go, you're in the phone book. Because the Bradstreet was the article things that were reference investments, who you can invest in, and all this. It was the informational thing. Yeah. So if your name was in that, means your name was pretty big. So this guy who was business and stuff like that. So she knew exactly who she was on the date with. Your name's in the phone book. Yep. She took him down a notch, saying, "You're not getting any." That's pretty much what she's saying. You get to feed me. We get to have company. You're not getting anything because I know you have no money. That's pretty much where that joke's coming from. And the only reason is because when I was doing some of my history papers, I had to look up the Bradstreets and reference them. And so it's just nice seeing history be alive at that time. So I just love that. And so this is a movie where I'm going to rewatch probably multiple times for me, because I just enjoyed every aspect of it. I give it a 4.5. It's not a perfect film, but this is one of those movies like you're going, hey, I understand all your complaints about it. I think you're a little too low, Harrison, but this one hits me, it hits all my spots. You know what I mean? It just got it. So that's why
I love the friend. She was a real, when she goes up the stairs, he's like 20 flights. She's like, well, I don't care.
She's about to pass out.
Yeah. She was a good friend. I liked her. Harrison, I can't believe you're about to do this, but this reminds me of Submarine in the last episode. But go ahead. Let us know.
All right. So there's been discussion that this movie has been made 3 times. Oh, there goes Evan.
Just joking.
Please let me make my case. I think this is the best version of that story of the 2 friends that are traveling. I love the blimps. I think they're great. And I actually kind of liked Ralph Graves in this, especially in the Antarctic stuff when they're trying to survive and the snow and all that. I liked that. I like Jack Holt when he's flying the dirigible. I like the little stunts at the beginning. Flying around it. I thought that was cool. I just had a really good time with this movie. And I think it is the best. If I were to rewatch any of the Ralph Graves, Jack Holt, this would be the one. Yep.
I would probably watch Submarine again if I had to pick the 3. Because if I had to watch that, I'll be that guy crawling out of the tent to kill themselves. So I won't be doing anything. That would be me.
Submarine,
but it does have blimps. The
blimps are great, man. They're the best. I don't know why we stopped using them. I mean, I guess they did catch on
Really?
fire.
Yeah.
The Hindenburg. But besides the Hindenburg.
I mean, the Submarine was my number 5 on the first episode, and I gave that a higher score than this one. And I never thought I would do this, but I agree. Not that I would never agree with Evan, but I agree with Evan on this. Is that I would probably watch the Submarine one again because at least that one has some humor at the beginning. It's kind of funny. What I was going to ask you, Harrison, because what is up with Fay Wray in this movie? She doesn't want her husband to go on this thing. She's like, no, don't leave. This dude, she goes to their friend, and he does it. He's like, I'll let you be mad at me if it means you're not gonna go. He ends up going anyway, so it was for naught, honestly. But and then she's hanging out with him on the beach. Yeah, but I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
she was gonna leave him for him. They were gonna get married if they got divorced.
It didn't work for me. Like, she knocks all the trophies.
Oh yeah, all of his
she
stuff
sees a picture of him, and then they're at the beach, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. I feel like, and especially him being a loyal friend as they showed, and if it didn't sit as well. So
he's not really a loyal friend to him. He's a loyal friend to her.
It doesn't matter to me though. Yeah,
but that's why he'll say, you could be a divorced woman and I'll still marry you. I'll take that on because I love you.
Yeah, but she wasn't divorced yet. Yeah, like they were still married.
It's stupid.
And it didn't sit well. I was like, I don't, and usually I don't really, whatever. Hey, I'm not saying go around and cheat, and I love cheating in movies, but what I'm saying is sometimes I understand it, and sometimes I'm like, and this was one because it felt out of character for what they kind of showed for her, even though she was going to leave him, and she's like, don't open this till Antarctica. I don't know. That's the only thing I was going to ask you. Like, did you like that? Like, was that a plot line that worked for you or no?
Not really.
Okay.
I think that was definitely the weakest point, which is sad because I really like Fay Wray. Like, she's great in King Kong, Mystery of the Wax Museum. She's great in that.
She was good in this. Like, I liked her.
I liked her at the very beginning.
Yeah, same.
And it seemed very sincere. But no, I think you're right. When she wants to be with whatever his name is, like, it kind of felt out of Jack. It felt out of character. But I love the Antarctica stuff. I enjoyed that so much. But I will say it was very hard to pick my number 2, my number 1, because these were only off by 2 points. This is a 3.8 out of 5.
Didn't crack a 4. None of these cracked a 4.
Nope, I did not. Like I said, this was a tough bunch, not because I loved these movies.
I agree with you fully. I did really like 2 of them, and the rest, I don't know if I will revisit.
Well,
definitely Rain or Shine, never.
Now, I got lucky. I started with Lady of Leisure. Then I went to Flight. Then I did Rain and Shine. Then I did Deluge. And then I did Miracle Woman. So I started on a high and I ended on a high. And it was a struggle to get through the middle.
That was the middle, yeah.
I just watched them in the way they came out. I watched them the way like they're in the box. But that's probably a better way to do it. Start good and end good. And then the middle is more,
I was just looking at my score. I gave Submarine the same score, a 3.8.
I remember when we were doing that. Like, I'm like, when are you going to say it?
But it's one of my lower ones.
And this movie's talked about, and this is why I think they did a 4K, because this movie is talked about a lot of people who made films like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s on having an impact on them. So I was really excited to watch this for those adventure type movies. But then, boy, was I disappointed.
Yeah.
So
Flight was more exciting as far as that goes. This I could see as being a real precursor to like survival films, like the Antarctic stuff in the tent. It's cold and yes, but they did it in Submarine. Except instead of cold, they were sweaty because there was like no oxygen.
They're stuck in the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So and Jack Holt should. I don't know if they did more movies. He should never do another movie with Ralph Graves. He never gets the girl. He always ends up alone. He always has to save his butt every single time. He has saved him in 3 movies. They were friends. They become unfriends. He has to save them, and he ends up alone. All 3 movies.
He's the true hero.
Yeah, he's the real hero.
No.
What a fun time.
Yes. All right. Well, those are it. That's it. Those are the Frank Capra films for this time around. Now let's look at what the next 5 are. So let me see. Let me pull up my spreadsheet here. There it is. Next we got Platinum Blonde, American Madness, The Bitter Tea of General Yen, Forbidden, and Lady for a Day. I think 2, maybe 3 of these movies have Barbara Stanwyck, so I'm very excited for that.
All right, I'll tell you right now. We got she's in Forbidden.
Okay.
She's in The Bitter Tea of General Yen.
Okay.
That's it. Jean Harlow is in Platinum Blonde.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Two
I thought
Barbara
she was in
Stanwicks. So with that being said, I have a question. I know it's your show, Harrison, but I feel like it's a fun thing we should do on these last couple. Without having seen, you've never seen any of these, right?
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Which one have you seen?
Platinum Blonde and what was
Forbidden?
Forbidden, yeah.
Okay, so for you, take those out. Which do you think you will like the best out of with not having seen them? Which do you think you're gonna like the best, and which do you think you will like the least, just off of like who's in it, the title, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, let me.
Because I can tell you right now that I love Barbara Stanwyck, one of her movies will probably be the one I like. I'm gonna guess. So I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna like Forbidden because I like the poster, and it says her greatest romantic role, and I think she's good in these romance movies. And the one I think I'm gonna like the least. Well, they all look kind of good. I'm gonna go with Lady for a Day. They got a weird guy with a top hat and a little skinny mustache, so I think that one is. So I'm going to say this disc will have both my favorite and least favorite, but we'll find out.
We'll see. Okay. I think just for the sake of history, because I've heard of this movie but have not seen it, Platinum Blonde.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one I'm least looking forward to.
The one with the goofy title about the tea leaves or whatever.
I'm a little worried about that one, but it has Barbara Stanwyck.
True. You might overcome.
Maybe
that's
American
the one I think
Madness.
I would like the most is the T one.
The T one?
Yeah, because that's actually been on one of my watch lists for a long time. So it's either going to be like, yay, or it's going to be a disappointment. Like
it's both your most anticipated.
Yeah.
I think American Madness for me, for least.
Walter Houston.
He's kind of hit and miss for me. That's what I'm worried about.
A great American Picture of Today. I could see it looks kind of boring. I don't know what it's about, but I kind of agree.
That's the one that I'm nervous too, because American Madness is a one that when you read books, it gets referenced every now and then. So you're like going, okay, what is it going to do? So that's because, and I'm a little nervous about it because of this, because this gets referenced quite a bit, and I hated it. So just because other people in the olden times liked it doesn't mean I have to like it today.
Right.
Ain't that the truth?
So.
All right, you got to make sure, Evan, you put yours back in the right order. That way, you don't mess. I like to put them away and take them out while we're doing the show. That way they go in their right spot.
Great idea. Doing the same thing.
Because it makes me I'm like, shoot, are these in order? And not that there's any. It doesn't matter. They all came out in 1931. The guy made like 7 movies a year apparently, but
yeah,
I
will know they're out of order.
Yeah.
I will say,
you can see my doors are just wide open, and I just took them out.
There you go. I think I'm looking forward to the last batch, because I've seen most of those.
I've seen only Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but I'm looking forward to those because they're all 4K, all 5.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm interested to see how they look visually, because so far I've not been stunned with any of the ones we've seen on 4K. And that's kind of the nature of the movies, right? Like the younger generation, I loved the movie, but I don't think it was like standout. And Dirigible, I could see why they chose it, but I don't think it was incredible either. But those I'm interested to see for that reason.
I think the last batch, I've seen most of them already. But it was just because I watched old movies with my mom all the time, so it was one of those, and those were popular all the time. But I haven't seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington on 4K yet because I didn't have that Columbia Classics, and I didn't. And then I haven't seen what's the other one that's in the other Columbia Classics.
Oh, It Happened One Night.
It happened one night.
Yeah, when I heard this was announced, and then Harrison asked, I didn't watch that one yet because now I have 2 copies of that. So
yeah, I watched the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 4K. So the other 4 are all first time, never seen them. Looking forward to, but we'll see. I gotta read them.
We'll see.
Do you watch older movies naturally, or are you kind of just watch the movies that I grew up with and then newer stuff? Do you ever go back?
Yeah. I love old movies. I like classics, but there's a lot of holes because I did not like them when I was younger. So I didn't really get into them until I got a little older, and kind of could appreciate them. I couldn't have watched these as a kid. I couldn't watch them, and as a teenager, 20s, I respect Harrison. In my 20s, there's no way I would not be able to I wouldn't be able to really enjoy them how they should. I feel like now I do. So yeah, it's just I have a lot of holes with a lot of classics because I didn't watch them growing up at all.
And then also you have the classics, and those are the cream of the crop, right? Because we forget the middle. Look, they're being re-released and everyone's buying because those are everyone's favorite. But it's that right underneath and go like that. So
I've never even heard of most of these.
Yeah. So when I grew up, my mom watched movies. My mom and I collected together. And every other Friday, so we rented movies on Friday, but every other Friday was Black and White Friday. So you had to rent a black and white movie. So I had an account, my mom had an account, my dad had an account. So we all got 6 movies on a Friday.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I mean, when I'm talking, I was a movie watcher. But on every other Friday, half of my movies had to be black and white. So we would go and rent all those.
If my mom told me we had to do Black and White Friday, I would not watch that night. Back then, I would have been like, count me out. I'm gonna rent the game. Thank you. I'm gonna go.
But it was just so ingrained into me that this older movies were not like my favorite actor growing up was Roy Rogers. I mean, I loved Roy Rogers, Zorro. I didn't live in my era of growing up. I was definitely one of those people that, because it was just my mom loved them, and we had cable first, so we were watching Turner Classic. Literally when that was announced, we got cable for Disney Channel and Turner Classic Channel. So we were that's what we did. We just watched movies. And so so I love that you are able to go, because some people can't. I feel like people go, oh, I watch older movies. No, you stop at 1970s. Okay.
Yeah,
that's where you stop.
Right.
Right.
Or
you gotta go a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's as far back as I'll go. That's my start. 70 and on is it. Yeah. I know people like that. I know people who like 80s movies they feel like are old. Not me. I love the Universal monster movies. Always. Those I always have. And I've seen the super majors like Casablanca's, your Wizard of Oz, your Gone with the Wind. These I like this because I would have never ever sought these out because I've never heard of them because they're not on that level of those movies as far as popularity, name recognition. So that's why this is a great set because we had mentioned earlier, people not really talking about the films, and they haven't been for the last 70, 80 years because I've never heard of them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and this set too has been out for a few months now, and same thing, you don't hear anything.
November, right? It came in.
I think it was like November or October.
I think so. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
And I think it was, and we were the only 3 saying we were going to get it. We're like
in our little friend group. I think we're the only 3 who have it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I can't see Rich or Alex buying it.
Absolutely not. Or liking it.
Well, yeah.
They're like 0 out of 10 or 0 out of 20. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, Alex likes old movies too, but I don't know if he would like this.
Vincent Price is in them, or if it's like a sci-fi or horror. Yeah.
But it also takes a certain type of you can't sometimes watch old movies. like our nice debate of Lady of Leisure. There's like my experience because of my history and knowledge about that time changes a little bit how someone else, like if my wife went to go watch it, she would go, "This is boring. Can I watch Sleepless in Seattle?" Like they're like, and like some of the jokes I could see I laughing and I could see her not laughing, if that makes sense, because just you can't sometimes walk into these blind. And that's why if you go to read classic books, that's why they do annotated editions, so you could have the understanding of what they're talking about, because sometimes we don't know the culture they live in. I mean,
the context.
The context. And so it's very important to know that. So, and it's not easy to do this. Like those silent films, they for me are not always easy, because I'm like going, besides me being dyslexic and it's all reading.
Oh yeah.
But I did have to pause a couple times because those like they come up like fast, and I'm like, oh, gotta stop that. But just the pace of them is different, and so it's you have to be. And what's so funny, I watched my last one was the Miracle Woman. And I said, I just wanted something fun, but kind of like old feeling. So I watched Nice Guys after. I was like, I just needed like a break from that, because I did these 5 kind of like in a row.
Me too.
Like, Me too. Like going, it's a mental, like, I just needed a mental break of something that I knew was familiar, because you can't just sit back and say, relaxation, if that makes sense. You have to really pay attention a little bit more than just watching a Marvin Gaye movie for us. Because we're trained to watch those.
I'll wrap up with this, Harrison. I'll tell you what I'm excited for. 89 minutes, 87 minutes, 76 minutes, 85 minutes, and 95. 95 is the longest of these 5. So this will be a breeze compared to Dirigible and Flight, which were over 100 minutes each.
You just ruined it,
because you know
they're going to be terrible.
Right, you jinxed it.
The blimp. No, this is, I mean, it will be easy for me, who likes to just like binge them and really get them in there. So I love that.
Cool.
Nice and short.
All right. Well, that's our show today, guys. We're actually almost at an hour and a half right here. So that's pretty cool. But before we go, why don't you guys plug your channels? I know Evan doesn't have a channel, but say something to the
Harrison, really old movies. Come watch here. This is where I'll be.
Yep. He's
only a guest now.
Yep.
I'm only a guest right now.
Yep. All right.
You can find me again at Geeks and Flix. As far as what we have coming, I'll do that. Tomorrow night we do have a show with our buddy Rich. Speaking of, our 3rd annual Geeks with Faces for Radio Awards. It's a little different, obviously, because our friend David is not here, but he will be honored tomorrow night. That award show is his thing, and so it is different. Rich wanted to change some things, and we let him kind of decide, because that was his partner. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow live at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then. Other than that, I know Alex has some unboxings coming. I am not, I'll be honest, I haven't made a video in a little bit. I've been on kind of just a mental block of I love this. I love the lives. But I don't feel like filming right now. So I don't have anything new coming up, but Action Movie Guys podcast, we do have a bunch of new episodes coming out. We've been recording those. So, and Harrison's going to be coming up in like next month, I think. So
I think so. Yep.
Yep. So look up those. Those are actively being updated.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, and you can follow me at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, YouTube at Really Old Movies. I release new episodes Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This upcoming episode is actually with our buddy Alex, where we talked about all 3 versions of The Thing. So stay tuned for that.
That should be fun.
It was a very fun thing. Yeah. I know, terrible dad jokes today. But anyways...
way to end the episode.
Exactly. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll be back next month with part 3 of this series. And with that, this has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullum. These are my co-hosts, Evan and Nate. Take care. And